Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 421st episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Jantsch. He is the author of Duct Marketing. He's got a coaching program around that name. Super smart guy. I've known him for years. Saw him a few years ago at a conference in San Diego. Talked about having him on the show, and we're both busy and things happen, and it didn't happen until now. We're getting into the self-reliant entrepreneur, why you need to trust yourself to maximize your growth. And, I was just interviewed this morning, and I talked about it a little bit on last episode, but one of the questions the guy asked towards the end, I answered with, you need to trust yourself. You need to invest more in yourself. I think back to all of the money I have lost by trusting other people, investing in oil and gas, in a home rehab, in an apartment complex. I mean, all these things, all of them lost. A franchise, a wine and cigar in California, good grief. Don't do that. This is a crazy state. Because I didn't trust myself enough. Like I was making good money in sales and later on even owning my own business. And I didn't have control over those things. And I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of sleep. Ended up in two audits. One by the IRS from the apartment complex. One in the state of California from the Board of Equalization. Good grief. Don't get me started on that. When I started investing in myself, trusting myself, things got a lot better. So, you're in for a treat as we go through that. John's a super smart guy, very experienced. So, you came to the right place. And when I talk about, investing in yourself, I started, and I mentioned this on the last episode, a new sales training program that I'm rolling out. It's a 2-day live event. It's going to be in the outskirts of Austin, April 29th and 30th. Head over to wesmethod.com. If you join in January, there's a discount. If you join in February, it'll still be a little bit of a discount, but it'll be a little bit more money. If you wait till March, you'll pay the highest price. But the seating is limited. We're doing it at a simple hotel in the outskirts of Austin, super affordable. Your breakfast, lunch, and dinner is included on both days. We're going to do dinner the first night, so if you get there in time. But you get immediate access to the 30-day sales growth program, live weekly calls, ask questions at any time, all the videos, all the workbooks. But you also get a private monthly call with me, which I don't offer in any other program. And you get 2.5 days live with me, and everything is guaranteed. You have nothing to lose. You can bring a guest at 50% off as well. So that can be a coworker, partner, spouse, whatever, but you just bring a buddy, right? It just helps you lower your costs. You just say, hey, we're both going to split this. So, I tried to eliminate all the excuses why you shouldn't do it. So go check that out, wesmethod.com. Sign up and start growing, right? Trust yourself, invest in yourself. It'll be worth it. And now let's bring on our guest. Jantsch, all the way from Kansas City, Missouri, author of the Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, 366 Daily Meditations to Feed Your Soul and Grow Your Business. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Hey, I'm just doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Man, are you going to be preaching to me? Or do I need old to be in sales? Is that what you're saying? I just want to take the money and run, man. Do I even have to fulfill why am I having you on this podcast, man? What'd you do to me?
Well, I have absolutely no idea why you're having me on this podcast, but
caught me in a moment
I
of
showed
weakness.
up because you invited me. But I don't think there's going to be any preaching. Although I do think that I do think that salespeople, entrepreneurs, people in general, I think have come to the conclusion that they got to work on themselves a little bit if they're going to go out there and grow and get better and have better results. And so this book is actually about kind of the admission that our life is a work in progress.
Yeah, amen. So people that may recognize your name, they should. You are the Duct Marketing legend. The legend is in the house, man. We've got quite a few books, duct tape marketing, and that's been revised and updated, right?
Yeah, yes.
You've got duct tape selling, you've got the referral engine. So, I mean, you know what you're talking about. And I've always said, the best salespeople are really some of the best put together humans on the planet. And do you touch on that in the book?
Well, this book, the format of this book is very different. We should probably explain that. I mean, it
Sure.
is a daily devotional. In other words, January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd, you're going to get a new page. So that's thus the 366 daily meditations. Every day starts with a topic. There's a reading from some mid-19th century literature, which we can discuss if you want to get into why I chose that literature. And then about 150, 200 words from me contextualizing that and then leaving you with a challenge question every day. So this book is really all my other books, this is actually my sixth book, and all my other books have been very squarely how to, do stuff in marketing mostly and sales. And this is really more of a why to. It's kind of the mindset, type of book, rather than teaching you how to do things. I think most of us have read all the how-to stuff we probably need to do our jobs, but a lot of times it's what's in our head and our mindset that kind of stops us from doing our best work. So this book's about a daily practice to try to help you do your best work.
Yeah. I see this all the time where people they've got notebooks and hard drives full of stuff and yet they're still not accomplishing things. I remember a few years back I was speaking a good bit and I saw the same people at like 4 conferences in a row in the span of 2 months maybe. And I'm paid to go to all these and they aren't. And they were not cheap conferences. So these, in the span of 2 months, people are dropping 15, 20 grand to go to these events. And I'm like, when are you applying any of this? So do they just doubt themselves? Is that where this can come in to help them stop learning, start applying?
Yeah, I think there's no question. I mean, one of the first stages, this book is because it's set up as a calendar. I kind of have actually seasons in the book, and I think the first stage is or first season is trust. You have to trust yourself enough to know that what you're doing is what you should be doing. That what others say, shouldn't really indicate what you're going to do. The comparison trap, is another thing that holds people back or makes people feel like they're not good enough. So a lot of the work that has to be done, I think, to kind of overcome that first stage is really a lot of work around kind of developing some self-trust.
Yeah. And I know, personally, I got into trouble over the years. Every bad deal that I look back on was when I didn't trust myself, right? Oh, that guy's really smart and I'm going to give him some money and let him invest in this retail store. Just stuff I had no business doing. But we all suffer from that to a degree, right? The imposter syndrome.
Sure.
Do we ever really get over that?
Well, I suspect a lot of people don't get over it, but I do think one of the things that I, a lot of the reflections in this book are because I've had my own business for 30 years, and you learn some things, if you're going to stick with it that long. And I think that one of the things that I've certainly learned is that, a lot of times when I want something to happen or I'm pitching a deal or something, I'm thinking, this is really the direction we want to go, and then it doesn't happen. Initially, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I failed or that didn't work. And I think over time, one of the things that at least I've learned is that a lot of times the deals I didn't get, opened the door for something that was actually much better, and you, after you see that happen a time or two, and maybe you thought it was luck, you start kind of saying, oh, maybe I need to stop trying to control or stop worrying about, how exactly things are going to come together. If I have my objectives, I have my goals, I have kind of the idea of where I want to go, I can detach a little bit from how I'm going to get there and not cause so much stress in my life thinking, oh no, it has to happen this way. And again, you can get kind of woo-woo about that if you want, but I think over the span of 30 years, I've seen it happen enough that I think that the universe, generally speaking, wants us to achieve our goals, and we just have to keep plugging sometimes, and the right opportunity will show up.
Yeah, it's like I don't remember if it was Napoleon or Patton or one of those guys. They said, no battle plan survives engagement with the enemy.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but you still plan,
yeah. That's right.
right? So
Yeah.
how do we balance that? Because some listening to this might just think, yeah, well, there you go. John just told me I don't have to plan. I'm just going to
That's
take
right.
what comes my way. And it's meant to be. And you know what? I'm going to go back on Facebook. And I mean, a little bird will just land on my lap and bring me the right deal when it's ready.
Well, I'll throw another quote in there before I answer that. That's similar. Mike Tyson was famous
Yeah.
for saying, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think that that there's no question that you can read some of this stuff that says, oh, you can manifest your dreams just by thinking about them and visualizing them. And I probably wouldn't go that far, although there's some elements of truth, I think, to that. There's a lot of times, for example, when I was going to write a book or I was going to create a new course, I would just start talking about it as though it existed today. And a lot of times what that did was that had people saying, well, you ought to try this, or you ought to do this, or, have you talked to this person? So I think there is a little bit of, hey, set the objective, start telling people about it, start making it, happen. Obviously, you got to show up every day and do some of the hard work as well, but don't get as hung up on, oh, this is exactly how I thought it was supposed to work. I mean, I created courses before. Again, I probably created my first course in like 2002. So I've done dozens of courses before, and I used to just create them and go, look what I created. Isn't this awesome? And every now and then, you hit a home run. But also every now and then from that approach, the market would tell you, we don't want that. That's not what we're after. And so I've gotten a lot better, or at least I advise people, do discovery with your clients, with your prospects, start creating some of this stuff. Start talking about it before it exists, because that's how you're going to create, I think, what the market really wants.
Yeah. So this book, you get into, what is this? American Transcendentalism. Man, I mean, I couldn't even use Google. I had to copy and paste that. Man, that's a big, long word, transcendentalism.
Yeah, it was a label actually applied to a group of thinkers, writers, preachers in the mid-19th century, mostly on the East Coast, around Boston. And people will recognize some very famous names from that group: Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Louisa May Alcott. I mean, these were all writers of texts and books that a lot of folks were asked to read in high school and college and things. But essentially, if you think about what was going on in that time, so around 1850 in America, we were on the cusp of the Civil War. Women were marching in the streets to get the right to vote. We were trying to abolish slavery. So it was kind of the first really countercultural period in America. There was a huge upheaval and move towards reform that was going on. And the real voice was, from Emerson and Thoreau and those folks was, you've got to think for yourself. We can no longer just listen to the preachers or our parents or the politicians, to tell us what we should do. We should think for ourselves and follow our own path, even though it may cost us, to do so. That's what we really need to do as human beings. And I think that's still today some of the best advice for entrepreneurs, for folks starting businesses, for salespeople, because I do think that a lot of what holds us back is this belief that we're supposed to do something a certain way, or this belief that we're my grandmother and my father had this occupation, so I need to have that occupation. And so I've anchored all of the writings, each of the daily pages, in some of the writing from that period, because it wasn't just some of the people that you've heard of, the Thoreaus and Emersons. I mean, even the fiction from that time period, the protagonists in Moby Dick and in Scarlet Letter and in Little Women, we're all very much, hey, I have to do my own thing. I have to think for myself. And again, as I said, that writing has stood the test of time and still is tremendous advice for entrepreneurs.
So are you saying in 175 years, my kids will appreciate the advice I'm giving them today?
I think they may, but I do think that this, there's lots of research and historians that, talk about the generations, turning over, and that, history repeats itself. And, I do think we're in I think you can make a comparison to, how divided culturally and politically the United States seems to be today, to, maybe that time period. So that to me, I think is why I think a lot of this writing is particularly relevant today.
So should we take this advice, try to save the world with it, or just save ourselves with it, and maybe in leading by example, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think an army of self-reliant entrepreneurs is probably great salve for, for the world. That doesn't have to be your individual goal, but I do think that people that one of the things that I'm trying to promote in this book is that you have to work on yourself. Better you makes a better business, makes a better career. I don't think anybody would doubt that. So it's really, the format of this book was set up because I work with so many business owners, so many entrepreneurs, so many folks like you, Wes, that have probably that stack of books on the corner of their desk they're thinking about trying to get to. that this is a 2-minute a day, hopefully inspirational, hopefully give you something to think about as you go out there and tackle your day. Practice. This is like a workbook, as much as it is a book. So I personally. I personally think entrepreneurship is probably the greatest personal development, program ever created. But it is something that takes a little intention, and I'm just trying to inject a little intention. In fact, I know dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs that I've spoken with. I'm sure salespeople as well that have built kind of morning rituals around, getting their day started right. Making sure they're thinking right. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's reading, journaling, and so this book hopefully fits into that kind of practice.
So is this risky for you? Like, could people see this as too big of a shift out of what you normally do, or putting entrepreneur in the title?
I'm sure so.
Keep it, a little more.
Well, that certainly keeps it. I mean, I don't think anybody felt like I was qualified to write the self-reliant person, but so the entrepreneur part certainly keeps it in the business lane. But really, this is something I felt like I needed to write. I didn't just do this as a commercial venture. This is something that's a reflection that I've been studying for, probably 20 years in my entrepreneurial career. And I think the risk probably was more in not doing this. There certainly are some people that might say, oh, who does John think he is? He's a marketing guy. Why is he writing a book that's telling me, that I should meditate? But again, like a lot of things in life, there are people who, this is exactly what they want and this is exactly what they need. And I'm not after trying to please everyone. I'm after finding people that this offers some value to.
Yeah. When do we know that it's the right time to pivot, right? The old phrase, or shift a little bit, or venture into something maybe outside of our lane a little bit? Because this is, some could say, well, you've got the luxury of 30 years in business, you've got a successful business, you can now, extrapolate or experiment.
Sure. Yep.
Do you wish you'd have done this earlier, or did it take 30 years to kind of have the right perspective to bring something like this to the market?
Well, I don't know if there's any great way to answer that. I don't feel like this. I feel like this was the right time for this book. I feel like I couldn't have written the same book at least 10 years ago. I did have the luxury. I mean, this book took a long time to write. There was a lot of research involved in this. So I did have the luxury of a business that supports my habit of writing, if you will. So a lot of things are in place to make this happen. To go back to kind of your original question or original thought there of, how do you know when it's time? I think there's a couple signals that crop up. Sometimes it's because you're bored, or because you're not doing your best work and mediocrity starts to actually wear on you a little bit. I mean, there's a whole lot of people out there that are doing okay. And, so they stay in their lane and don't venture out. I don't think there's any growth in that. I have, maybe I get bored too soon, but I have over the years, constantly stretched myself, added new things, taken on new things, before. I mean, I was podcasting in 2005 and blogging in 2003. And those were things that I really at the time had absolutely no idea if there was going to be any commercial value in doing them. But it just felt like the right approach for, my growth, for my business, for where I wanted to go. So I do think that you have to keep experimenting, that you have to keep growing, or, eventually the market's going to catch up with you. I mean, I wrote Duct Tape Marketing in 2007. It was, I hate to say it, but it was revolutionary, at the time, because nobody was focused on small business. Nobody cared about small business, in terms of, trying to market to them. Then when the internet came along and it got a lot easier to do that, all of a sudden it's like, okay, you've got to change your game. You've got to change what you're doing because, the market is shifting how people buy, the competition that comes into the market. And so I think we have to constantly be on the lookout for ways that we can continue to innovate.
Right. So how do we get this book and actually stick with it?
Well, the get the book part is easy. It is available wherever you purchase books. Obviously,
I am linking to the book, so
the local retailer or the online retailer, however you want to get it. As far as sticking with it, here's what I would suggest is, and because it is a calendar book, depending upon when you hear this show, don't think that you have to start on January 1st or it's over. Start the day you get it, and commit to 30 days of a morning ritual. I don't know about you, but I need to stumble across it, put it somewhere where I get up and drink my coffee or, something. It's got to be there. That's why I think this is such a great, it's available in Kindle. It will be available in audiobook, but I think this is a great analog book because there's even lines in it so you can actually write, because I end every day and ask you a question. So, like any habit that you want to establish, you've got to have the intention that I want to do this. You've got to make it easy, so that you stumble it over it every day. And then and I would say, for me at least, my own experience is if I tell myself, okay, I'm going to give this 30-day try. And I'm not, even if like in day 10, I'm thinking this is stupid, I'm going to go through my 30 days. And then I think you will either establish a habit of doing it then, or you won't, and you move on to something else.
Yeah, cool. And what led you to this, right? I mean, as I'm sitting around, like I scrolled ahead to, we're recording this on December 10th, and it's feminine energy, and it's Sophia Ripley. I mean, I've never heard of her. Were you kind of a bookworm, and we just didn't know that about you, or?
Well, I think it should. I think it probably anybody who's written, 5 books has probably read a few books, and so maybe I haven't talked about it in the same, maybe I haven't used the word literature, as I've talked about books like I do in this one. But, books have always been extremely important. I mean, my podcast that I've done for years is always with authors. So, I mean, I've probably consumed some element of 1,000 books, over the course of the years. And so, it was important to me, to not only, a lot of people are familiar with Emerson and Thoreau, this woman that's today for December 10th. One of the things that was really important for me was to go really deep into that time period. Once I committed to mid-19th century transcendentalist literature, I realized that there was a whole bunch of it, and a whole bunch of it hadn't, especially some of the female authors. I mean, female authors weren't allowed in libraries in a lot of states, and a lot of institutions, at that time. So needless to say, a lot of their literature didn't get out. A lot of their writing didn't get out. But now it's been collected in letters and journals and things like that and published. And so I wanted to actually really give a thorough cross-section of this literature, because I think it's all so incredibly appropriate for the entrepreneur, for the human condition of growth.
Yeah, very cool. So, and I saw it's got a 2020 date. So, and we're going live with this in early January. So, is it ready now, or?
It's definitely available now. I don't know why they put the copyright. It actually came out October 22nd, 2019, but they did.
Okay.
But I noticed the copyright does say 2020, but no, it's available in all formats. Probably whenever you're listening to this show.
Well, I saw it on Amazon, so I'm linking to it already on the show notes here. Do you have a specific landing page we want to direct anybody
Yeah.
to?
So if you want to find out more about the book than you would find on a typical Amazon page, including links to shows like this that I've done dozens of, it's just self-reliantentrepreneur.com. And of course, if you just want to find out more about the work I've been doing the last couple of decades, it's just ducttapemarketing.com. So that's DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Very nice. I just pulled that up and I see how it redirects to a landing page. So that's cool.
It does.
I will link to that as well and make sure and mention it in the outro.
Awesome.
Well, John, it's great to catch up. It's been a couple of years. Actually, I saw you in San Diego in the lobby of the Hyatt. I don't even remember what conference it was. Who knows?
Maybe Social Media Marketing World potentially.
Could have been that or traffic and conversion, but I don't know.
Yep.
One of those.
They all kind of blur together after a while, don't they?
I know. I mean, I just drive down. It's an hour away, so I get it's a nice little perk of living where I live. I don't have to go on a plane to go to a lot of these big conferences. So
San Diego's a great place.
Yeah. So I hope to see you at one of those soon.
Well, thanks so much, Wes.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show. Work on yourself. I'm digging his daily devotional. That's the bonus benefit of doing these shows. I get books. I get them early. A lot of times I get them way early, so I can review them. Actually, I just gave an endorsement for another book, Knowing Isn't Doing. We're going to have Rod Santomassimo on the show here pretty soon. His book comes out in, I forget now, late February, early March. I don't know. March. But it's awesome getting these kind of things. But, this working on yourself daily, little bit. I've always said people overestimate what they can achieve in a year, but underestimate what they can achieve in 5. And it's that little progress, consistent, progress, not perfection. What's in your head? What's your mindset? So John knows. So check this out. Get his book. The imposter syndrome. Look, it affects all of us all the time. I still suffer from it. I don't think you ever get away from it completely. So if you're struggling with that, you're not alone. Don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up. Get some outside independent advice, and I promise you're going to grow. You're going to grow bigger, faster, stronger than you thought you could. It's from that outside help. All right. That's what I'm offering as well in the new program, wesmethod.com. Go join now. Save some money before the price goes up in February and March. So 4 months of live training. Okay, every week we're on a live call. You get a private monthly call with me each month, and then we're going to spend 2.5 days together in Texas at the end of April, helping you sell more, faster, at higher margin with less stress and more fun. You're going to reach decision makers. You're going to set firm appointments. You're going to handle the stalls and the put-offs. You're going to eliminate the think-it-overs. You're going to befriend the gatekeepers. You're going to get to the truth. You're going to send less proposals and close more of them at higher prices easier. You're going to get more referrals, more testimonials. I'm going to show you everything. Okay, and it's guaranteed. You can bring a guest at half off. I don't know how else to help you beyond that. All right, wesmethod.com. Go sign up. Don't go sell something.